This is exciting. We are taking you on the most spectacular day trip from Ljubljana. We are going to guide you around a 5-story castle built in an enormous cave over 800 years ago. You won't believe some of the things we saw and the history we share about Predjama Castle. As if that wasn't awesome enough, we are then going to take you with us to the most well-known caves in the world, Postojna Caves. Now, these caves have been operating as a tourist destination for over 200 years. Can you imagine being 5 kilometres in the side of a mountain, 240 metres underground with no electricity? Well, thankfully, they now have electricity and a little train system that takes you deep inside. You can then walk around the absolutely spectacular cave system. You will see all sorts of formations, from thousands or hundreds of thousands of tiny spaghetti-like stalactites on the roof to giant columns of pure white that just glow, plus a whole lot more. Now, if you'd like to see the pictures that we have of these 2 amazing places, then to be honest, you really need to see them. They are so amazing. Then click on the link to the episode 105 on the podcast player you're listening on now. I know you're going to enjoy this episode. Good morning, Lyle.
Good morning, Leonita.
Well, we are back today with episode 105. Now, before we get started today, I just want to say that this episode is probably going to be a little bit shorter than our normal episode, because we're talking about a day trip that we did in Ljubljana, and it was just too important to put it with something else. Where we went and the most amazing day, I wanted it to have its own podcast. So we decided we're going to do that. And the other thing is, there may be a little bit of background noise. We're recording sitting in an apartment in the middle of Europe, and there's people around, and that's just what happens, right?
And it's pouring rain.
And so it's a good day to podcast.
It is.
This is one of my favourite days that we had, and I was blown away. We did a day trip, as I said, and I'd wanted to go here since, once again, my daughter told me about it ages ago, and I saw the photos. And once you see the photos of this place, you just know you've got to go when you're in Slovenia. So the day trip was to Predjama Castle. Now, Predjama means basically in front of the cave. So it's a castle, like 5-story castle, that's built. It looks separate, but it's not. It's actually built into the cave, and they use the cave, for some of the infrastructure, some of the walls, all that sort of stuff. And they've built this huge cave in there.
Yeah, so it's 123 metres high cliff that's more than 800 years old.
Cool. So we went in there, and we're going to tell you about that. And then we went to the best-known caves in the world, Postojna.
That's better.
Okay.
Postojna.
I've been practicing. I just don't know why I can't get it right. Anyway, once again, you'll be blown away. So let's go back.
Can I interrupt? Just a little hint. When we booked this particular tour, we thought what we saw was in Australian dollars, but it was in American dollars. So that sort of added a bit.
I'm going to put a link to the tour because it was worth every dollar we spent.
Oh, sure. It was great. But I'm just saying we thought,
that was my stupidity. No one else.
I wasn't going to bring that up, though.
Okay.
That's all, because I'm not that sort of person.
Okay. I don't really know that people needed to know that. But anyway, thanks for that. Well done. Can we move on?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. So when he says we booked, I booked, though that's why it's my fault. And we got picked up from our hotel in Ljubljana out the front.
Of our hotel.
Of our hotel. And we were picked up in a little van that seated about 8 people.
Correct.
Yep, plus the driver. And the driver called himself Fossil.
Yeah, his real name was Vladimir.
And he was really old. And
he thought he was really funny.
He did think he was funny. And he was our guide and driver for the day. Now, Fossil, Vladimir, he just kept chatting and telling us all the information. Now, the first part of this is we drove through Ljubljana, through some beautiful, then out of town through some beautiful landscape. And well, Slovenia is green and lush, as we've mentioned before, but you're going through little villages and little farming communities. You could be back in the old ages, couldn't you? Like
Yeah.
some of these
Yeah,
places.
the roads are obviously all cobblestone and they're quite thin, narrow, or so should I say narrow roads, so that if you're going one way and someone else has got right away, you sort of got to stop
you pull over.
or reverse until that car goes past. But it's really a step back in time.
Yeah, it's picturesque. So it's not that far from Ljubljana, though, is it? The cave?
No, it's only about 53k, I think.
Okay.
And but one of the other things he mentioned, which really stood out to me, he was talking about the manager of the household in the small village.
Yes.
And the manager of the household is Nana,
Sure.
right? And Nana, there's no questioning what Nana thinks should be done. And I think that could be probably a good idea, even in these times. Maybe not with you, but anyway. Yeah, anyway.
There's lots of great information. And that's another, I know you can go often if you hire a car and you can go to these places on your own. But I think you miss so much information when you don't have a guide. You learn so much about the area, the history, the people. That's one of my favourite things about doing a tour for sure. Yeah, the day trip. So tell us a little bit about the castle, Don.
Okay, as I said, it's the impregnable medieval marvel has been perched in the middle of a 123-metre high cliff for more than 800 years. The castle was first mentioned
Can you imagine building that 800 years ago? It blows your mind, doesn't it?
Yeah. The castle was first mentioned in 1274 with the German name Lueg, when the Patriarch of Aquileia built the castle in Gothic style. Now, the Patriarch of Aquila was basically a group of archbishops that had a fallout with the Pope. And so for a period of years, they, I suppose, controlled the regions. So they commissioned it to be built. Inside the castle, there is a small court.
It's 5 floors.
Yeah, it's 5 floors. The castle is now a museum that shows a life in the 16th century with an armory, dungeon, halls, living quarters, torture chamber, which was pretty fascinating, a water catcher area, and toilets.
Yeah. So all those things you talked about. So when you say the living area, there were several rooms that were set up like they would have been, and there was like one of the room was like the bedroom, but they also had that was the only room in the castle that had a fireplace.
Yeah.
So what they did is and off that bedroom was a little chapel that you could walk up into as well.
Yep.
So what they did is, so they didn't have to leave the bedroom, they set up some chairs and put a hole in the wall so they could look through from their bedroom and into the chapel and do the service from the heat of their own bedroom, right?
Yeah.
Because it's quite cool inside the castle.
Yeah. Sure.
Imagine it back when it was snowing and cold. So that was some of the living quarters. Another part we saw was, I don't know if it was a dining room, but it was more like I guess a conference room you'd sort of call it, and they had life-size people there with the clothes they would have worn, as well as the decorations on the furniture, the table, all that sort of stuff was all like it was back in the day.
Yeah, authentic.
Yeah, and then there was also a room that had the armory.
Yeah, and the armory was actually pretty realistic. Like they had the what would you call it?
The coat of shields things.
Yeah, they had that, the coats of arms.
Yeah,
and they also had the full set of armor.
Yes.
But they also had copies of the original weapons.
Yeah.
And though you could tell they were the original weapons.
Yeah.
And even outside one of the areas, they had the balls that they used for the cannonballs.
Yeah, that's right. They did, and they were massive.
Yeah. But
so you can imagine you're going inside a building, but you're sort of in a castle, and you're going up small flights of stairs, 5 different floors, and on each floor there's some little different rooms, whether it's living quarters, and then all of a sudden you come across this little courtyard or platform, and you look down into the torture chamber, and they've got sort of someone hanging from their arms
Well,
from the rope.
I've got a thing about the
Oh my gosh!
right.
But they also had. I'll let you tell you about in a minute. But obviously, the thing where you put your head in, your hands are caught, and they got the cog that you turn to obviously tighten something. It was pretty realistic and dark and damp and scary. But then you discovered something else, didn't you?
Well, basically, inside the castle there is a small court,
Yeah.
which overlooks the small torture chamber.
Well, I wouldn't say it was small, but anyway, yeah.
In the courtroom, there is also a door leading to a deep, now it's 63 metres or 207 foot, vertical cave drop. So you were tortured or executed at this spot. On the bottom of the...
So you get killed or tortured, and if you're killed, you fall down the shaft.
Or they kill you.
Pusher.
Well, I assume they kill you down in the torture chamber. So now the thing is, on the bottom of the shaft, the bones of the unfortunate souls still rest. So yeah, there's bones down there. So that was pretty weird.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the other thing that was quite funny was too the toilet that they showed us. Was a toilet with a loo with a view.
Yeah.
So they had a little window where the toilet was, which I suppose it was before social media.
So I haven't mentioned it, but I will go if you want to see the pictures that I took of this place. And beachtravelwine.com, episode 105. You won't be sorry. You'll be blown away just to think that someone had the foresight to somehow build a 5-story castle attached and be part of a cave as well. Obviously, it was very, very fortified back in the day. Or if you would like to see the videos that I took, if you go to our Instagram on Beach Travel Wine, and up the top, the story highlights, click on Slovenia, and you'll get to the trip that we did that day. But you do follow an audio guide. Yep. So, and they've got it in lots of different languages, and that's really good because they, otherwise you'd be sort of wandering around not knowing where you're going or what you're seeing. So there's a whole lot of different little spots, and they stop and they give you all the information. And I just thought that was well organised and as well.
Yeah, it was really good. But the thing that fascinated me, there is a legend. Well, it is a historical legend, but a legend of the castle. Baron Erasmus van Lueg, a local Robin Hood hero who fled to the castle in the mid-1480s after killing Count Pappenheim, Marshal of the Imperial Habsburg Court, in a duel whose legitimacy was disputed. In retaliation...
So he had a duel and he killed him, but they disputed whether it was a legitimate duel or not.
Correct.
Because imagine if you kill someone in a legitimate duel, then that's okay.
Yeah, well, this guy was basically a general in the Habsburg
army.
Right. So he was no slouch.
No.
So in retaliation, a siege was ordered of Predjama by Habsburg Emperor Frederick III.
So they siege the castle so no one can go in and out.
Basically.
And they're trying to, I guess, starve him out or whatever.
Yeah. So that's exactly what they did. So, but this bloke, obviously, this Erasmus must have been a smartass because there was a hidden passageway, a vertical natural shaft which Erasmus ordered to be enlarged, leads out to the original castle and leads to an exit location at the top of the cliff, 25 metres away from the cliff's edge. During the siege, the shaft allowed Erasmus to secretly supply the castle with food and continue his robberies. Now, the thing is, I read other parts, and I don't know how true this is, but he used to get up there and, of course it's a siege, they're not supposed to be able to get food. Well, this Erasmus, he used to throw cherries at the people that were... Just to piss them off. So
but you went right up. Like there's, talking about stairs, they're very steep in places, and there's over 200 steps inside. And right up the top, there's a big sort of opening in the cave. Like you're sort of out of the castle, but you're inside the big cave.
Yeah.
And you went up the top.
Yeah, I went up there, and you can see what it's much rougher than the
More
staircase.
authentic, more rustic.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's probably is exactly as it was back in the day. But the funny thing is, poor old Erasmus. The other legend has it that he was actually given up by one of his staff to the people that were doing the siege, and they say he got killed
sitting on the loo. Was that
sitting
him?
on the loo? Yeah. So he's copped his right whack for the cherries, I reckon.
Get the cannonball through that loo, that window though.
Or
maybe it was somewhere else.
I think it might have been another loo. It might have been
two loos with views.
Yeah, maybe.
But on the different levels, though, you can sort of imagine people living there, because besides the rooms that they had balconies outside, didn't they? So I guess it was obviously, I'm thinking more of having a barbecue, but it was obviously more for security and watching who's coming to attack you, I guess. But they have got quite a few viewing platforms as well, which today the views back down over where we parked, the little sort of area, was just spectacular. And once again, I've got beautiful photos of that.
As much as the castle itself was impressive, the views from the castle were just impressive. And there was a river, remember? Flowing along.
Yeah, and you can hear it. Well, it flows in under the cave, obviously.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't have had to worry about fresh water either.
No, up the top.
Yeah, they catch it, don't they? Because the caves are wet and the water leaks through.
Yeah, they actually have what I'd call, I suppose, plumbing. The pipes so the water would obviously come down in a particular area if it was raining or whatever into the cave. That would be captured, and then that was piped to different areas of the castle.
That's pretty good. And there was a bell.
There was a bell.
And that was obviously there to warn people.
Yeah, that was basically there, yeah.
But now it's like they say it's a good luck bell, isn't it? You make a sincere wish and ring the bell.
Yeah. And both Leanne and I, obviously.
And the bell rings all day long, basically, doesn't it?
Yeah, I had to pull Leanne away from the bell.
Yeah, sure. So once you finish the tour and walking up and down the stairs and checking out the views and the torture chambers and all that, the sort of museum stuff, you head back down to the entry area. And the walk up itself, I should have said that before we went in, it's a nice sort of big wide pathway, and that's where you get the best photos and the best views of the castle. So check them out, beachtravelone.com, episode 105. But there's some shops, souvenir shops, and there's a cafe and bits and pieces. But there's also a museum down there that's full of taxidermied animals.
Oh, that's right. I forgot all about that.
Yeah, like every animal, like a local animal, like owls and foxes and all sorts of stuff. But the reason we went in there was because when you buy the ticket to the castle, you get free entry to the museum. And there's a really nice clean toilet in there. It's a bit of a hint. Whereas there are some other toilets that you have to pay for. So that was handy. That was once again, that was our guide gave us that information. We wouldn't have known that ahead of time. So that was great. Anything else you want to add about the Predjama Castle? No?
Not really. I just thought it was to look at from ground level was really impressive.
Fascinating. And you just think about the design of it, the logistics of it, and like how someone even thought to do that. It's pretty amazing. Over 800 years old. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, crazy. So the next part of our day trip was we're back on the bus, and we headed, as I mentioned before, to the best known caves in the world called
Postojna Caves.
Postojna Caves. And wow, they have they were totally amazing, blew my mind. But the history of it, when you think about what they did, blows my mind even more.
Yeah, it's only about 9K from the Predjama Castle, so it's not far at all. You park, obviously you've got to pay for parking and that sort of thing. The grounds around the caves are beautiful.
Yeah, well, the walk from where we parked, across the little bridge, across the water, there's a little waterfall. We went past some buildings with some pretty wisteria flowering on it, and then you look back over the lake, and there's like a church in the background with pretty trees, and I could have wandered around there. And then you come across, there's a hotel there as well.
Correct, yeah.
And below the hotel, there's like a buffet restaurant. There's more toilets, and up a little bit further, there's like souvenir shops and more food outlets. plenty of seating, and then a big sort of staircase with a big brick retaining wall that takes you up to where your tour begins. Now, because we did the tour, we had like skipped the line. Our group were English speaking, so we went all the way to the front of the line, and we were sort of basically next to go in the caves. But before we do that, tell us about the history, Don, please.
Okay.
From the best known caves in the world.
Okay, the caves were carved by the Bivka River over millions of years, and
that river's still running there, and you can see it going into the caves today. Yeah.
Now, as Leanne said, they're the best known caves in the world. While the cave system is 24 kilometres long, only 5K is open to the public. Of this, 3.5 is travelled by train. The remaining 1.5 can be navigated by foot and with a guide. It takes about 1.5 hours. Now, from entry level, the cave's highest point is 240 metres, and the lowest point is about 120 metres. So that gives you, I think that gives you a bit of an idea of the size of
the caverns and things.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah. It's made up of 4 caves interconnected through the same underground river, which is the Rivka. Now, this is incredible. I mean, do you want to talk about the history first, or do you want to talk?
I already asked you about the history.
Okay. All right. So
it was discovered when?
It was discovered by Lucas Seck in 1818. Oh. He used to go through and he found it, and originally went through with the lamps, and he discovered all these huge caverns and that sort of thing. But in 1819, Archduke Ferdinand visited the cave. This is when the caves became a tourist destination.
So a year later, they're a tourist destination in the 1819, right? So a year.
So Seck became the first official tourist guide for the caves.
Who found it,
when the caves were open to the public. Electric lighting was added in 1884, before even Ljubljana, the capital of Carniola, as it was known then, of which the cave was part of. In 1872, cave rails were laid along the first cave train for the tourists. At first, these were pushed along by the guides.
They wouldn't have pushed the train we were on, but anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Later, at the beginning of the 20th century, a gas locomotive was introduced. After 1945, the gas locomotive was replaced by an electric one. A bit of trivia here regarding the caves. During World War I, Russian prisoners of war were forced to construct a bridge across a large chasm inside the cave.
That's great, because that made it easy for us.
Sure. And then during World War II, German occupying forces used the cave to store aircraft fuel, which was destroyed in April 1944 by the Slovenian partisans. The fire lasted 7 years.
Right, okay. So it's a lot of history there. And also our guide told us that back in the day when they were obviously doing those tours from 1819, they didn't have tour guides and air-conditioned Mercedes vans to get you around. And he said that it would be, I can't remember whether it was, I don't know why these two numbers stick in my head, whether it was a 6-day or 11-day voyage. So they would go on horse and cart. So you go so far and stop overnight and then go to eventually get to the caves to go and have a look at them. And now,
well, Archduke Ferdinand, he was his house, which we've been to in Trieste. So it's a fair distance.
Yeah, so obviously, it is a fair distance. But let's talk about the caves, shall we? Because you are going to be blown away by the pictures and videos of this, because we were, and everyone who's been there just can't believe it. The first thing, though, as I said, we go up to the front of the line and we, that sounds like we're getting a bit pushy, but to be honest, the trains have so many carriages on them, and that you hop in 2 by 2 by 2 by 2, and off they go. I think it was about 70 people on each train went in.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I had in my head 80, but, either way,
so
it
you basically
indicates
go in a little entrance
train.
and you hop on this train, and there's no, and you've got to put down the railing in front of you. Now, I know Lyle says, well, you've got to be smart enough to figure this out yourself, but where we come, which is a very regulated, safety-orientated country, there would have been signs, there would have been a safety instruction, but they say nothing. And however, we sometimes ducked our head because we were so close to the ceiling. We probably weren't.
And the walls.
Yeah, and the walls, right? So somebody could, try and stand up, put their hand out. They would be injured in an instant. But there was no talk of that. So it obviously works. The self-governing, stupid people.
Yeah, the rule of common sense.
I know. So you hop on this train, and all of a sudden you whisk through these tunnels, and you think, okay, where are we going? And then it opens up into a massive cavern, and there are stalactites from the top, stalagmites from the bottom. Some are small, some are big, some are white, some are coloured. It's cold on the train. Like, it's about 9 degrees, they say, inside Celsius.
Yeah, so make sure you wear suitable shoes and, reasonably warm clothing.
Especially if you're on that train, and you do spend a bit of time going in and out on
But one of the things that we talked about was we couldn't believe, because there is constant dripping of water, obviously, which, that's what...
water dripping. Well, you'll be riding along or walking along, all of a sudden you get this big plop of cold water hits you on the face or the head.
But once you get off the train and you're walking up,
it's about 1.5 kilometres you walk, and you're following a guide.
But there's constant water running down the steps. It's damp. But I don't know how they've done it, but at no time do you feel like you're going to slip over. I don't know what they've done.
Worked at that non-slip thing. There's also, there's some parts that are a bit steep. There's more, it's not many stairs. It's more just flat, but, going up inclines.
Ramps.
And down inclines. But nearly the whole way there's handrails.
Yep.
As well. And because you want to stop all the time. There's a constant flow of people. So, you are supposed to follow a guide, and he stops about 3 or 4 times to give you some information. I'm not sure they're keeping a track of who's there, so you could go a bit slower and take your time. You're not going to get lost because there's one way in and one way out, sort of thing, and you're just following the flow of people. There's always plenty of room to take photos and videos inside. And as you said, there were 4 main caverns. At one stage, you sort of up the top and you look down, and it's obviously 100 metres down. You can see a bridge below, people walking across. And she was saying, our guide was telling us, you basically do a big figure 8. So you sort of start at the bottom, you do this big figure 8 going up to the top, and then you go back down under the cavern that you've just been in. So you can see that, when you're up the top, you can see that it's a big figure 8. And then when you come to what they call the beautiful caves, and I can't remember all of them. One of them was called the White, I think.
One was the Spaghetti.
The Spaghetti, and I've got photos and videos of that. Literally, like thousands of look like little bits of spaghetti hanging
from the ceiling.
All over the ceiling. It was incredible.
It was almost like crystal. The roof was covered in crystal droplets.
Okay.
It was bloody spectacular.
On the walls, and where you're walking around these like tree trunks full of.
Well, they call them columns. Well, they call them columns when they join. When they join, yes.
Those things are growing at about 1 centimetre a year.
Yep.
Yeah, so they're very slow growing. Or every 10 years.
No, every 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a centimetre.
10 centimetres every 1,000 years.
Correct.
Yeah. So they're very slow, but you can see the water just dripping from one to the other, and there's some that are almost touching, and you can see some that have just joined up, and it's history right in front of you, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and they say that not to touch the mites, because as Leanne said, the tights are at the top, and the mites are down the bottom, because any sort of grease or anything on your hand will stop the actual
growth.
The production of
solidification of the calcium or whatever it is. Yeah. And so that was one of the big caves we went through, and they've obviously they've got it lit up, and they've got spotlights on the main things, and spot lights in behind some of the little caverns and things. So it just makes for this dramatic, amazing experience. The next cave, I think, was called the White Cave. So it's obviously all the calcium. It's just, once again, it's
Well, it's pure white.
Pure white.
So it's pure.
It glows.
Like what do they call it? Calcite.
Yeah. So it's just glowing. And then the last big cave is I can't remember what it was called. The Red Cave, actually, and that's where the stalactites and stalagmites are coloured by red oxide, and there's also some green in there as well. So that's coming in from obviously environmental influences.
Yeah. Well, basically, So iron and other minerals, as well as acids from surface vegetation, combine with calcite crystals to add shades of red, orange, green, and black to the colour of the spelothiums, which are what the not Latin name, but the technical name of the mineral deposits. Look, the colours and everything, and obviously the lighting makes a huge difference. It is unbelievably beautiful.
We've been in a few cave systems and we thought they were pretty impressive, but I've never seen anything like this. And this is one of those places that I would definitely put on my bucket list and my to-do list. And I would highly recommend doing a tour. I'm going to put a link to the tour we did, but pick your own tour, because it's just that you get on the train a bit quicker, you get the guide, and you get driven right to the front as well. It's a bit hard to get in. You drive all the way up if you have your own car, and you learn so much about it. I was blown away. It was beautiful. I thought I'd be a bit worried about the train, but I wasn't at all. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Yeah, and don't worry about claustrophobia.
No.
At no point do you feel
closed in at all.
Because it's that bloody big.
It is huge. And you're up the top, you can look down. When you're at the bottom, you're looking up, and there's just everywhere you look is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like I don't know, natural sculpture.
I would go back to it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, me too.
I really, really enjoyed it.
And the other thing that impressed me was actually the logistics of how they run it.
Oh yeah, in and out.
Very well done.
So when you come to the end of the tour, they obviously have you leaving. We're still underground, still in the caves. They have it ending through the tourist shop. So you wind back through the tourist shop, and then everyone lines up at the top of a waiting area for the train. Now, in
that area, that last cave, they quite often have concerts.
Right.
Yeah. Apparently, the acoustics
you can imagine
are phenomenal.
Yes, and then because she said, we're about 100 and I can't remember how far. She said we've got to go back up 120 meters or something, and I'm like,
yeah, that's right. She said, at entry level, it's 120. Can go down as far as 120.
I'm thinking, okay, uphill we go, up these steep. Here we go. I'm ready. And next thing you say, and that's where you wait for the train. I had no idea that we got the train out, to be honest, and which that was fantastic, because the train does take some of the same track as coming in. However, it veers off on a separate track, so you go through caverns that you haven't been in before. One of them they had hung some chandeliers in.
Oh yeah,
that was pretty.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. So maybe they have concerts in there as well.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah, who knows? And so you just think you've finished the tour when you get to the end of the walking tour, but you're not. You've still got 3.5 k's on a train on the way out, seeing more and more beautiful things.
Yeah,
It's a wow. Like, it's a big wow.
Yeah.
And so, as I said, go and have a look at the photos. beachtravelwine.com, episode 105. You won't be sorry. I'm probably going to overdo it, with all the photos, but hey, I took so many, and they're just amazing.
Sure.
Some up close, some of the spaghetti, some of the big caverns, some on the train, and I did actually get quite a few videos as well. So once again, Beach Travel Wine Instagram, up the top, click on the story highlights, click on Slovenia, and you'll get to, it's only a couple of minutes, and you'll get to the videos I took actually travelling along the train. That was pretty cool. And like inside the caverns as well, as what I mentioned before about Predjama Castle. I did quite a bit in that as well.
I think that, I know that there are, as we said, they're the best known caves in the world, but there are bigger caves not far from the Postojna, and they're called the Skogjan Caves. Caves, and they're bigger than them, but I don't think it's as well. The infrastructure is anywhere near good as what the Postojna Caves are.
Okay, that's good to know. So I was lucky enough to snag the front seat on the way back, which was good because I got to enjoy all the views. But one thing that we noticed pretty well straight away when we were heading home were the mountain ranges.
Yeah.
It's the Julian Alps, which
Correct.
isn't far from Ljubljana. And even though we were there in May, in spring, there was still snow, the beautiful snow-capped mountains in the distance. And once again, you're driving through the green hills covered in the beautiful trees, and up ahead you've just got this stunning mountain range. And it was a perfect way to finish our tour, I thought, didn't you?
Yes.
That was it. We were buzzing. That was a high.
Yeah, absolutely. Just amazing. It was really hard to comprehend how big they were and just how beautiful they are.
Yeah, and even how they made that damn castle as well, how they built that.
Sure.
And the views, you won't be sorry going to see that, both of those. And it's generally they've done together as a day trip as well. So
they're not far apart, are
they? are. So I hope you've enjoyed our little special shorter episode about our day trip to just this amazing part of Slovenia, just out of Ljubljana. It was incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah. Highly recommend.
Highly recommend. Where would you have liked to have a glass of wine?
Oh, I don't know. The first thought came to me, and this is going to sound ridiculous, is sitting on that toilet looking out over the in the castle.
But mine was just basically sitting there at the restaurant after we'd been inside the caves. I would have liked to have sat there and had a glass of wine just to chill. But we took as much time as we could exploring before we had to head home, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed episode 105, and we'll be back in the next episode with something just absolutely my favourite thing I think I've ever done. Yeah. So goodbye from me.
And goodbye from her.